All right, in this video, we'll be looking at basics of cell biology, which was going to be a review for most of you having had a biology class at least as a freshman, and for some of you having had more than that. So this will be a review, but it's important to kind of review these things just to make sure that we're all on the same page. All right, cells are the basic unit of structure and function for all living things, meaning that a cell is the smallest thing that's considered living things. Anything smaller than that is really not considered living on its own. Cells are made up of smaller bits called organelles, and those organelles carry out special processes. All cells have three main components in them. So all cells have cytoplasm. All cells have the cell membrane, which is actually this green thing. This is a bacteria, so there's like a cell wall here. All cells have genetic material. Notice not all cells have a nucleus. Some cells don't have a nucleus. These are prokaryotic cells, which do not have a nucleus. That's another example of a prokaryotic cell, which is just a bacteria, but that's beyond the scope of this class because we're mostly going to be talking about eukaryotic cells, which is like animal cells, which is where we're going to spend all of our time talking about in this class. They contain a nucleus. They have membrane-bound organelles. So you can see here all the different organelles. Eukaryotes can be unicellular, but a lot of eukaryotes are multicellular, and all animals, by definition, are multicellular. So a little bit more about the nucleus. The nucleus contains the cell's genetic material. The DNA is found inside the nucleus. When the cell gets ready to divide, the DNA converts to chromosomes and divides. The mitochondria, which is the site of all energy production for the cell. Basically, it takes the food that you have, whether it be proteins or carbohydrates or lipids, and it breaks it down, creates ATP, and ATP is kind of the energy currency for the cell. This is where most of the catabolic processes in the cell take place as far as energy is concerned. Carbohydrates are the main source of energy for animals. However, some animals specialize in other sources of energy almost exclusively, like carnivores, and so there are some exceptions to that rule. Not sure why that continues to happen. All right, probably because I'm clicking on the picture. So the cell membrane controls what enters and leaves the cell. This is very important because this separates us from the outside world. Ultimately, our skin does that, but our skin's made up of cells, and so you get the idea. The cell membrane is very important. Diffusion of materials across the cell membrane is allowed. In fact, is necessary for life to be sustained, and even powers a lot of cellular processes. But in general, think of the cell membrane as protecting the cell. There are protein channels here, as you can see, that allow some of that passage as well. Then here's diffusion. You can see the protein channels allowing some things in, some things out. This is very important, particularly that for animals that live in the water. We'll talk more about that as we get closer to that. They have to maintain, and it's important for animals that don't live in the water too, because we have to maintain a certain amount of water in us, and we don't live in it, so it does make it different. All right, and then apparently I missed a slide back here on. I just don't have it. I was talking about cell. I have it in my notes. It's just cell division. The idea that cell division is how animals grow and cells divide. We're not going into all the steps of those, but it's just important to know. And then lastly, cellular energy. Energy is obtained through the breakdown of materials. That could be, this is the formula for photosynthesis. And so like a plant makes food. Well, some animals eat plants, some animals eat animals that eat plants, but either way, that energy that comes from the sun is getting put into animals. And there are enzymes that allow the easier breakdown of food and other substances. The enzyme is basically a protein that speeds up a reaction. And so whether that be an anabolic reaction or a catabolic reaction, enzymes speed that up, and so they decrease the overall energy demands on our body and allow our bodies to work more efficiently.